Dr. Minho Kim wiped the sweat from his face as he looked at the massive stone structure rising from the red dirt of Kepler 442c. The planet was far from any known trade routes and had been marked as empty on all star charts, but the orbital scans had shown something that made his heart race: ancient ruins that were older than anything humans had ever found in space. The research ship Taeguk sat in the distance like a silver needle against the orange sky. Minho could see the other members of his team setting up their equipment around the site. Sora Park was already taking pictures of the strange symbols carved into the black stone walls. Her camera made soft clicking sounds as she moved from one marking to the next. Jinwoo Lee had his rock hammer out and was carefully taking samples from the foundation stones. Nari Choi was running her quantum scanner over everything, trying to understand what kind of technology might be hidden inside the ruins. Minho had been studying alien ruins for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The building was huge, maybe 300 meters tall and twice as wide. The walls were made of some kind of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Strange patterns covered every surface. They looked like writing, but not like any writing system. He knew. Some of the symbols seemed to move when he looked at them directly. Professor Kim called Sora from across the site. Her voice carried excitement that she was trying to hide. "You need to see this right now." Minho walked over to where she was standing. She was pointing at a section of wall near what looked like it might have been an entrance. The symbols here were different from the others. They were carved deeper and seemed to glow with a faint blue light. "Look at these marks," Sora said. She was holding her translation tablet in one hand and pointing at the wall with the other. "I ran them through every language database we have. Most of them don't match anything, but some of them do." Minho looked at the symbols she was pointing to. They did look familiar, but he could not place them. "What language are they?" "Korean," Sora said quietly. "Not modern Korean, but something much older. Maybe 3,000 years old. But that's not the strange part. Look at these other symbols mixed in with them." She pointed to symbols that looked like mathematical equations, numbers and operators that any human would recognize. But they were carved into stone that his equipment said was millions of years old. "That can't be right," Minho said. "Run the dating scan again." Sora had already done that. "I've run it 5 times. The stone is definitely ancient, but these symbols, they're definitely related to Korean writing, and these mathematical symbols are using a base 10 number system, just like humans use." Jinwoo looked up from where he was digging near the foundation. "Professor, you should see what I found down here." Minho and Sora walked over to where Jinwoo was kneeling in a small pit he had dug. He was holding something in his hands and his face was pale. "What is it?" Minho asked. Jinwoo held up what looked like a piece of fossilized bone. It was about the size of a human finger, but clearly very old. "It's a finger bone. Human finger bone. But according to my tests, it's the same age as everything else here. Millions of years old." Minho felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 300 years. We've only been on Earth for maybe 200,000 years. "I know," Jinwoo said, "but I've run every test I can think of. The bone structure is human. The DNA traces I can extract are human. But the age doesn't make sense," Nari called to them from the other side of the ruins. "Everyone needs to get over here now." They found her standing in front of what looked like a doorway. Her quantum scanner was making rapid beeping sounds and the display was flashing red warnings. "What did you find?" Minho asked. "There's technology inside these walls," Nari said. She was staring at her scanner like it was telling her something impossible. "Active technology. It's been running for a very long time. The quantum signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen, but there's something else." She paused and looked at each of them in turn. The quantum patterns match human brain waves. Specifically, they match the brainwave patterns of people who are thinking about complex mathematics or engineering problems. It's like this technology was designed to work with human minds. Minho sat down heavily on a nearby rock. Nothing they were finding made any sense. Ancient ruins with Korean writing, human bones millions of years old, technology that was designed for human brains. It all pointed to something that should have been impossible. "We need to contact Earth," he said finally. "And we need to contact the Galactic Council." The Galactic Council was the governing body for all the intelligent species in this part of the galaxy. The humans were the newest members and were often treated like children by the older races. The Vorthak had been spacefaring for 50,000 years. The Celestial Dominion claimed to be even older. They liked to remind humans that they were just babies taking their first steps into the galaxy. Sora was already setting up the communication array. The message would take 3 days to reach Earth and another day to reach the Council Station. But they had to report what they were finding. As they waited for the equipment to charge, Minho walked around the ruins again. He tried to imagine who could have built this place. The construction was beyond anything humans could do even now. The stones fit together perfectly with no gaps or mortar. The symbols were carved with incredible precision. Whoever had built this had technology that was far ahead of current human science. But the evidence all pointed to humans. Old humans. Humans who had somehow been in space millions of years before Earth humans had even learned to make fire. "The message is ready," Sora called. Minho walked over and recorded their report. He tried to keep his voice steady as he described what they had found. Ancient ruins with human writing. Human remains millions of years old. Technology designed for human minds. He knew how it would sound to the people receiving the message. After they sent the report, they set up camp for the night. The planet had no dangerous animals and the atmosphere was safe to breathe. They cooked dinner over a small heating unit and talked quietly about what they had discovered. "What if we're wrong about human history?" Sora said as they watched the alien stars come out overhead. "What if humans didn't start on Earth?" "That's crazy," Jinwoo said. "We have fossil records going back millions of years. We know humans evolved on Earth, do we?" Nari asked. "Or do we just think we know that because that's what the evidence on Earth shows us? What if Earth humans are descendants of space humans who forgot their own history?" Minho listened to his team debate possibilities that should have been impossible, but the evidence was right there in front of them. Human bones in ancient rock. Human writing on ancient walls. Human technology sleeping in ancient buildings. 3 days later, they received a response from Earth. The message was short and direct. "Continue the investigation. Send more evidence. Do not share findings with other species until further notice." The response from the Galactic Council took longer. When it finally came, the tone was very different. The message was from High Arbiter, Zephal of the Vorthak Empire. His words were polite, but Minho could hear the dismissal in them. "Young species often imagine they see signs of their own kind in ancient places," the message said. "This is a common psychological phenomenon. We suggest your team return to more productive research." Minho looked at his team as they listened to the message. He could see the anger in their faces. The Galactic Council was calling them delusional without even looking at their evidence. "Well," he said when the message ended, "I guess we better find more proof." Commander Hyunwoo Jang stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha watching reports flood in from across human space. 12 different star systems, 12 different archaeological teams, all reporting the same impossible findings. Ancient human ruins that predated known galactic civilization by millions of years. The holographic display in front of him showed a map of human territory. Red dots marked each discovery site. They were scattered across hundreds of light years. But they all told the same story. Humans had been here before. Long before. "Sir," said Lieutenant Yubin Ko from the communication station. "We're receiving another priority transmission from the research team on Proxima 7. Hyunwoo nodded. "Put it through." The hologram shifted to show Dr. Min-Soo On standing in front of what looked like a massive underground complex. Behind him, Hyunwoo could see walls covered in the same strange symbols that were being found everywhere. "Commander," Dr. On said, "we've made a breakthrough. We found a sealed chamber deep inside the complex. The preservation is perfect. We found intact technology and what appears to be a library of data crystals. Everything is definitely human, in origin, but the dating puts it at over 5 million years old." Hyunwoo felt his chest tighten. 5 million years. That was older than the oldest known galactic civilization. "Have you been able to activate any of the technology?" "That's the strange part," Dr. On replied. "Some of it seems to respond to our presence. Lights come on when we enter rooms. Displays activate when we approach them. It's like the technology recognizes us as human." The transmission ended, and Hyunwoo turned to his aide. Get me a secure channel to Dr. Yuna Song at the Genetic Research Institute. Priority Alpha. While he waited for the connection, Hyunwoo thought about the implications of what they were discovering. If humans really had been a spacefaring civilization millions of years ago, it changed everything. It meant the Galactic Council was wrong about human history. It meant humans might not be the newcomers everyone thought they were. Dr. Song's face appeared on the communication screen. She looked tired, but excited. Commander, I was just about to contact you. I've been analyzing the DNA samples from all the discovery sites. What did you find? Something incredible, she said. The ancient DNA is definitely human, but it's not exactly like modern human DNA. It has additional sequences that we don't carry anymore, dormant genes that appear to have been switched off somehow. Hyunwoo leaned forward. What kind of genes? Enhancement genes, Dr. Song said. Sequences that would increase strength, speed, mental processing power, and something else I can't quite identify. The structure suggests they might enable some kind of direct neural interface with quantum technology. Are you saying ancient humans were enhanced? I'm saying ancient humans were enhanced and we're the diminished descendants, Dr. Song replied. But here's the really interesting part. I've been testing to see if these dormant sequences can be reactivated. In laboratory conditions, I've managed to switch some of them back on in tissue samples. The results are remarkable. Before Hyunwoo could respond, an alarm began sounding throughout the station. The main display shifted to show a priority alert from the shipyards at Luna Base. Commander called Specialist Yoon-hee Shin from the sensor station. We're receiving an emergency transmission from Luna Base. Something's happening with the new destroyer Sejong. The screen changed to show the interior of a spaceship engine room. A young man in engineering coveralls was standing next to what looked like a piece of ancient technology that had been integrated into the ship's systems. The man looked confused and frightened. This is Engineer Do-Hyun Park, the man said. I was running diagnostics on the new quantum core when something happened. I touched the interface panel and suddenly I could see things. Memories that aren't mine. I saw huge ships flying between the stars, cities floating in space, people who looked human but were doing things humans can't do. The transmission continued as Do-Hyun described visions of a vast human civilization spanning the galaxy. Massive ring-shaped structures around stars. Planets transformed into garden, worlds, technology that seemed to blend seamlessly with biology. The visions felt real, Do-Hyun said. Like I was remembering my own past. But they're millions of years old. How can I remember things from millions of years ago? Hyunwoo ended the transmission and immediately opened a channel to Dr. Song. Doctor, I need you to get to Luna Base right away. Bring your genetic equipment. I think one of those dormant sequences just activated on its own. Over the next week, reports continued to come in from across human space. Archaeological teams were finding more ruins. Genetic researchers were discovering more dormant sequences in human DNA, and engineers working with quantum technology were experiencing strange memories and abilities. Dr. Bomi Lee at the Physics Institute reported that humans seem to have an intuitive understanding of alien technology that other species lacked. Human engineers could reverse engineer alien devices faster than should have been possible. Human pilots could interface with alien ship systems without training. It's like we're not learning these systems, Dr. Lee said in her report. It's like we're remembering them. The evidence was becoming overwhelming, but the reactions from the galactic community were mixed. Some of the younger species were fascinated by the discoveries, but the older, more established civilizations were becoming hostile. High Arbiter Zeph Hall of the Vorthak Empire issued a statement calling the human discoveries fraudulent attempts to claim ancient heritage. Chancellor Morton of the Celestial Dominion accused humans of fabricating evidence to justify territorial expansion. The tension came to a head when the Galactic Council voted to restrict human archaeological activities. They claimed humans were disturbing important historical sites and demanded that all human research teams withdraw from disputed territories. Hyunwoo was in a meeting with Earth's president when the news came through. President Soo-Young-han listened to the council's demands with a calm expression, but Hyunwoo could see the anger in her eyes. They're afraid, President Han said when the transmission ended. They've ruled the galaxy for thousands of years based on the idea that they're the advanced civilizations and we're the primitive newcomers. If we're actually the descendants of the original galactic civilization, it changes everything. What are your orders, Madam President? Continue the research, she said, but quietly, and increase security at all archaeological sites. I have a feeling the other species are going to try to stop us from learning more about our own history. That night, Hyunwoo received a coded message from Dr. Song at Luna Base. She had been working with Do-Hyun Park to understand what had happened to him. The results were extraordinary. The dormant genetic sequences have definitely activated, her message said. Do-Hyun now shows enhanced cognitive function, improved physical strength, and the ability to interface directly with quantum computer systems. But more importantly, he's accessing genetic memories. Information stored somehow in his DNA from ancestors who lived millions of years ago. The message continued with technical details about how the genetic memory storage might work, but the implications were clear. Humans weren't just discovering evidence of an ancient civilization, they were rediscovering their own lost heritage, encoded in their own genes. Dr. Song's final words in the message made Hyunwoo's blood run cold. Commander, I think the genetic activation is spreading. I'm seeing similar changes in other humans who work with quantum technology. Whatever our ancestors did to hide their civilization, it's starting to unravel. We're going to remember who we used to be, whether the galaxy wants us to or not. Hyunwoo looked out at the stars through the command center's main viewport. Somewhere out there were the ruins of a human civilization that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. And now their descendants were starting to wake up. The question was whether the current galactic powers would allow that awakening to continue. From the increasingly hostile messages coming from the Galactic Council, Hyunwoo suspected they would not. The other species had enjoyed their position as the galaxy's elder races for too long. They would not give it up without a fight, but humans were remembering now, remembering technologies and abilities that had been locked away in their genes for millions of years. And if the memories were true, the galaxy had never seen anything like what humans could become when they fully awakened to their heritage. Hyunwoo opened a secure channel to Earth's military command. It was time to start, preparing for what was coming. The galaxy was about to rediscover why humans had once ruled the stars. Kiwon-nam pressed his hand against the smooth black surface of the ancient control panel and felt electricity run through his fingers. The quantum archaeologist had been working at the Kepler 442c site for 3 weeks, trying to understand the technology hidden within the ruins. Today, something was different. The machines were responding to him in ways they never had before. The central chamber of the ancient complex hummed with energy as dormant systems came online. Lights that had been dark for millions of years began to glow with soft blue radiance. Display screens flickered to life, showing symbols that shifted and changed as Kiwon watched. Dr. Nam called his assistant Junho Bei from across the chamber. The quantum resonance is spiking. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Kiwon kept his hand on the control panel and tried to understand what was happening. The technology seemed to be reading his thoughts. When he concentrated on a particular symbol on the wall, the corresponding display would activate. When he thought about wanting to understand the ancient writing, new symbols would appear that seemed to explain the others. Suddenly, the entire room filled with brilliant light. Kiwon stumbled backward as a holographic projection materialized in the center of the chamber. The figure was clearly human, but wearing clothes unlike anything from Earth's history. The man appeared to be middle-aged with kind eyes and an expression of infinite sadness. "Greetings, children of Earth," the hologram said in perfect Korean. "If you are seeing this message, it means the genetic locks have begun to fail and you are starting to remember who you were." Kiwon's heart pounded as he realized he was looking at a recording made millions of years ago by someone who was undeniably human. The holographic figure continued speaking. "My name is Taehyun Kim, and I am the last keeper of the archives. By the time you see this, our great civilization will be nothing but ruins and legends. We have made the hardest choice any people have ever faced. We have chosen to forget ourselves so that others might live." The hologram paused and gestured around the chamber. New displays activated, showing star maps and images of massive structures in space, cities that orbited stars, rings of metal and crystal that surrounded entire solar systems. ships larger than moons traveling between galaxies. We were the first, Taehyun continued. The first intelligence to arise in this galaxy. We learned to travel between stars when this galaxy was young. We built the networks that connect all the worlds. We guided the evolution of life on 1,000 different planets. We were the gardeners of the cosmos. Kiwon watched in amazement, as the displays showed the history of the ancient human civilization. They had not conquered the galaxy through force. Instead, they had carefully nurtured life wherever they found it. They had helped primitive species take their first steps toward intelligence. They had built the infrastructure that allowed trade and communication between distant worlds. For 10 million years, we guided and protected the younger races. The hologram said, we shared our knowledge freely. We helped them grow and learn and find their own paths to the stars. It was the greatest time in galactic history. A time of peace and wonder and endless possibility. But then the displays changed to show something terrible approaching from outside the galaxy. A darkness that consumed everything in its path, stars going out one by one as something vast and hungry moved through the void between galaxies. The devourers came from beyond the great void, Taehyun said. Entities of pure entropy that existed only to unmake everything we had built. They were attracted to complexity and intelligence. The more advanced a civilization became, the faster they would be consumed. Kiwon watched the battle that followed. Massive human fleets fighting against things that defied description. Technology beyond imagination turned to weapons of war. Entire solar systems sacrificed to slow the enemy advance. We fought them for 1,000 years, the hologram continued. Our greatest minds worked to find a solution. But the devourers were not like anything we had faced before. They could not be reasoned with or bargained with. They existed only to reduce all complexity back to primordial chaos. The displays showed the human leadership making their final decision. A woman named Minji Yoon stood before a council of humans from across the galaxy. Her face showed the weight of the choice they had to make. In the end, we found only one solution, Taehyun said. The devourers were drawn to large concentrations of intelligence and technology, so we would give them nothing to find. We would scatter ourselves across time and space. We would hide our technology and encode our memories in our own genetics. We would become primitive again. Kiwon felt tears on his face as he understood what the ancient humans had done. They had sacrificed their entire civilization to save the galaxy. They had used their most advanced technology to scatter their people across time, sending them to primitive worlds where they would forget their heritage and slowly rebuild from nothing. The plan was simple, the hologram explained. Our people would be reborn on worlds throughout the galaxy with no memory of who they had been. The devourers would find nothing but empty ruins and sleeping machines. After millions of years, when the genetic locks began to fail, our descendants would start to remember. By then, the devourers would be gone, and it would be safe for intelligence to rise again. The displays showed human colonies being established on hundreds of worlds. Earth was just one of many. But something had gone wrong with most of the other colonies. Only Earth had successfully preserved the human genetic line through the long dark ages. If you are seeing this message from Earth, then you are likely the only surviving branch of our people, Taehyun said. The responsibility for rebuilding our civilization falls to you. But remember what we learned in our millions of years among the stars. True strength comes not from domination, but from nurturing others. Use your returning abilities not to conquer, but to guide. Kiwon watched as the hologram began to fade. Taehyun looked directly at him with those sad, wise eyes. The archives contain everything we knew, our science, our history, our mistakes, and our triumphs. Learn from them, but do not be bound by them. You are not us. You are something new, something that can be better than we were. The hologram vanished, and the chamber fell silent, except for the humming of the ancient machines. Kiwon stood alone, surrounded by millions of years of human history displayed on screens of light. He understood now why humans seemed to have such an intuitive grasp of alien technology. They weren't learning it. They were remembering their own, forgotten science. He activated his communication array and sent a priority message to Earth. The other archaeological teams needed to know what he had discovered. More importantly, Earth's leadership needed to understand what was coming. As more humans began to awaken to their genetic heritage, they would need guidance about how to use their returning abilities. Across the galaxy, other archives were activating as awakened humans found them. Dr. Sunho An at the Centauri site reported similar holographic records. Commander Hyunwoo Jang received word that ancient human installations throughout known space were coming online as humans with activated genes approached them. But the most important discovery came from Dr. Sunho An at Earth's Genetic Research Institute. He had been studying the pattern of genetic activation and made a startling realization. The activation isn't random, he reported to the Emergency Council meeting on Earth. It's following a specific sequence encoded in our DNA. As each person awakens, they trigger awakening in others around them. It's designed to spread through the entire human population over time. President Soo-young Han listened to the report with growing concern. How long before all humans are affected? Based on current rates, maybe 50 years for the full population, Dr. An replied. But those with direct exposure to ancient technology or who work with quantum systems are awakening much faster. We're looking at thousands of enhanced humans within the next few years. The implications were staggering. Humans were going to remember their heritage whether they wanted to or not. And when they did, they would possess abilities and knowledge that would make them the most advanced species in the galaxy once again. The question was what they would do with that power. The ancient humans had chosen sacrifice and service over domination. But they had lived in a different time, facing a different threat. The humans who were awakening now lived in a galaxy where other species saw them as dangerous upstarts to be controlled or eliminated. As Kiwan continued to study the archives on Kepler 442c, he found records of other times when awakened humans had faced such choices. The ancient civilization had not been perfect. They had made mistakes and learned from them over millions of years. Now their descendants would have to make their own choices about how to use their returning power. But one thing was certain. The galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been called the Elder Race, and this time they would not choose to forget. High Arbiter Zeph Hall of the Vorthak Empire stood before the assembled Galactic Council with his forearms crossed in a gesture of absolute authority. His insectoid features showed no emotion, but his voice carried the weight of 50,000 years of galactic dominance. The humans have become a threat to galactic stability, he declared to the representatives of dozens of alien species. Their claims of ancient heritage are obvious fabrications designed to justify expansion beyond their assigned territories. Chancellor Morden of the Celestial Dominion nodded his massive crystalline head in agreement. His species had ruled entire sectors of space since before most worlds had developed complex life. The idea that upstart humans could be older than his people was unthinkable. We have ruled this galaxy through careful balance and mutual respect, Morden said. The humans seek to upset that balance with impossible claims and primitive aggression. They must be contained before they destabilize everything we have built. In the gallery reserved for human representatives, Ambassador Kyungjin Seo listened to the proceedings with growing anger. The council was debating restrictions on human space travel and trade. Some species were calling for military action to force humans back to their home system. The vote was swift and decisive. By a margin of 47-3, the Council authorized economic sanctions against humanity and the establishment of quarantine zones around all human territories. Any human ship found outside designated areas would be detained or destroyed. Ambassador. Seo stood to address the Council, but Arbiter Zephyl cut him off. The human representative will not be recognized, Zephyl said. This Council has heard enough human lies. You have 30 standard days to comply with our restrictions or face the consequences. 3 days later, Captain Woojin Seo was leading a routine patrol mission in the Outer Rim when his ship Ararang detected an ancient structure in an unexplored system. The quantum signatures were definitely human, but unlike anything in the current databases. Captain called Navigation Officer Heian-Oh from her station. I'm detecting massive energy readings from the structure. It appears to be activating in response to our presence. Wu Jin nodded to his crew. Take us in for a closer look, but stay ready to jump if anything goes wrong. As the Arirang approached the ancient installation, its systems began responding to the ship's proximity. Lights that had been dark for millions of years began to glow. Docking bays opened to welcome them home. Engineer Taemin Yu monitored the ship's systems as they approached. "Captain, the installation is sending us docking protocols, in Korean. How is that possible?" Before Woo Jin could answer, his tactical officer Min Jae-yoon called out an urgent warning. "3 Vorthak destroyers just dropped out of hyperspace. They're moving to intercept us." Woo Jin felt his heart race as he realized they were about to become the first casualties of the Council's new restrictions. The Vorthak ships were heavily armed and designed for war. The Arirang was a research vessel with minimal weapons. "This is Vorthak Commander Jektal," came the transmission from the lead enemy ship. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Council restrictions. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Woo Jin looked at his crew. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. But they were also humans who had spent weeks learning about their lost heritage. Something deep in their genetic memory was stirring. "All hands, prepare for evasive maneuvers," Woo Jin ordered. "We're not surrendering to anyone." What happened next surprised everyone on board. As the Vorthak ships opened fire, the Arirang seemed to move with impossible grace. Woo Jin found himself anticipating enemy movements before they happened. His hands moved over the controls with skill he didn't remember learning. Hyun-Oh discovered. She could somehow sense the quantum fields generated by the enemy weapons. Her fingers danced across her console as she calculated escape vectors that should have been beyond her training. Taemin Yu felt a strange connection to the ship's systems. When a plasma bolt damaged the main drive, he found himself able to reroute power through backup systems he didn't even know existed. His hands seemed to know exactly which controls to touch. The battle lasted only minutes, but it changed everything. The Arirang not only escaped the Vorthak ambush, but managed to disable one of the enemy ships in the process. The humans had fought, with abilities that their own training couldn't explain. "How did we do that?" Hyun asked as they reached safe distance. Woo Jin looked at his hands. During the fight, he had felt like he was remembering skills rather than learning them. "I think our ancestors are helping us." News of the Arirang's escape spread quickly through both human and alien channels. The Vorthak had expected an easy victory against a primitive human ship. Instead, they had been outfought by what they considered an inferior species. On Earth, President Soo-Young-han convened an emergency session of the Defense Council. Reports were coming in of similar incidents throughout human space. Human ships were displaying capabilities that exceeded their official specifications. Human crews were performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. "Dr. Jiwon Kang has a theory about what's happening," said Defense Minister Dong-hae Lim. He activated a holographic display showing genetic data from awakened humans. Dr. Kang appeared on screen from her laboratory. "The genetic awakening is accelerating," she said. "Stress and danger seem to trigger faster activation of dormant abilities. The humans involved in these incidents are developing enhanced reflexes, intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics, and what can only be described as tactical prescience." President Han nodded grimly. "And the aliens' response?" "They're terrified," Dr. Kang replied. "The Vorthak have ruled through military superiority for 50,000 years. The Celestial Dominion controls trade through their monopoly on advanced technology. If humans develop capabilities that exceed both, it threatens their entire power structure." The situation escalated when Dr. Jiwon Kang made her most important discovery yet. While analyzing data from the various ancient sites, she had identified the location of something the archives called the Prime Vault. According to the records, it contained the complete technological and cultural heritage of the ancient human civilization. "It's located in the Helix Nebula," Dr. Kang reported. "But getting there means passing through space controlled by a joint Vorthak Dominion fleet. They've stationed over 200 warships to prevent us from reaching it." On the colony world of New Seoul, civil engineer Seo-jun Han was dealing with a different kind of resistance. The local alien trade consortium had cut off all commerce with the human settlement. Food shipments had stopped arriving. Medical supplies were running low. The message was clear: submit to the Council's restrictions or face economic starvation. Seo-jun called a meeting of the colony's leadership. The situation was desperate, but he had an idea that might save them. "We've been depending on alien technology and trade for everything," he said to the assembled colonists. But our ancestors built things that lasted millions of years. Maybe it's time we remembered how to build things ourselves. What followed was remarkable. As the colonists worked together to develop solutions to their problems, more and more of them began experiencing genetic awakening. Engineers found themselves able to design devices that worked better than alien equivalents. Farmers discovered techniques that increased crop yields beyond anything previously achieved. Doctors developed treatments that healed injuries faster than alien medical technology. Within weeks, New Sol had become completely self-sufficient. More importantly, they were producing surplus goods that other human colonies desperately needed. The alien economic blockade had backfired by forcing humans to redevelop their lost capabilities, but the alien response was swift and brutal. Unable to control humans through economics, the Galactic Council authorized military intervention. Fleets from 6 different species began moving toward human space, with orders to enforce compliance by any means necessary. Captain Wu Jin Seo received word that the Arirang was being recalled to Earth for a special mission. When he arrived at Luna Base, he found the largest human fleet ever assembled preparing for departure. Admiral Gun-hee Park briefed the assembled captains on their mission. "We're going to the Prime Vault," he said simply. "The aliens want to keep us from our own heritage. We're going to show them that humans don't ask permission to go home." The fleet that departed Earth contained every available human warship, plus dozens of converted civilian vessels. It was a desperate gamble. If they failed, humanity would be at the mercy of species that had already shown they would use force to maintain their dominance. But as the fleet moved through hyperspace toward the Helix Nebula, something unprecedented was happening throughout human space. The genetic awakening was spreading faster than ever before. Humans who had never shown signs of enhancement were suddenly displaying remarkable abilities. Dr. Jiwan Kang monitored the phenomenon from her mobile laboratory aboard the flagship. "It's like the entire species is preparing for something," she reported. "The awakening is no longer random. It's coordinated, purposeful. Our ancestors built this genetic trigger system to activate during times of greatest need." As the human fleet approached the coordinates of the Prime Vault, they found exactly what they expected. Admiral Gun-hee Park stood on the bridge of the flagship watching as reality itself began to bend around them. The human fleet had penetrated the alien defensive line through maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Human pilots were flying, their ships with abilities that came from genetic memories millions of years old. The Prime Vault was revealing itself as space folded back like flower petals opening. What emerged was beyond anything the modern galaxy had seen. A structure the size of a small moon, made of materials that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ancient human engineering that made current technology look like stone. Tools. "All ships report ready," called Captain Mink-Young Lee from the communications station. Around them, the human fleet held formation, while behind them, alien warships struggled to follow through the dimensional barriers that protected the vault. "Begin docking procedures," Admiral Park ordered, "and prepare for whatever we find inside." As the lead ships made contact with the vault's docking ports, systems that had been dormant for millions of years came online. The structure welcomed them home with lights and signals that spoke directly to their awakened genetic memories. Dr. Jiwan Kang was among the first to board the massive station. Her equipment detected quantum fields of incredible complexity flowing through the walls and floors. But more importantly, she could feel something calling to her, a presence that seemed familiar despite being impossibly ancient. The interior of the Prime Vault was like walking through a living museum of human achievement. Corridors lined with displays showing the history of the original galactic civilization. Laboratories containing technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level. Libraries with data crystals holding the knowledge of 10 million years of scientific advancement. But at the heart of the vault was something none of them had expected. A consciousness that had waited alone for eons. Youngmin Choi was the first to make contact. The young quantum physicist had been experiencing the strongest genetic memories of anyone in the fleet. As he approached the central core of the vault, holographic displays activated around him showing the face of a man who seemed both ancient and timeless. "Welcome home, children of Earth," the figure said. "I am Seung-ho Im, last of the architects, I have been waiting for your return." Youngman felt a strange pull toward the central console. His hands moved without conscious thought to touch the quantum interface. The moment his fingers made contact, his mind exploded with knowledge and memory that spanned millions of years. He saw the full truth of what their ancestors had accomplished. Not just a galactic civilization, but something far greater. The ancient humans had learned to transcend physical limitations entirely. They had become beings of pure consciousness capable of existing across multiple dimensions and timescales. "The genetic locks are failing as designed," Sung-Ho said as Youngmin's consciousness merged with the vault's systems. "Your people are remembering their true nature, but with memory comes choice. Will you repeat our path or forge a new one?" Around the galaxy, the activation of the Prime Vault sent waves of energy through the quantum substrate of space itself. Every piece of ancient human technology hidden throughout the stars suddenly came online. On worlds that had seemed naturally habitable, massive terraforming systems revealed themselves. Ring structures around distant stars uncloaked and began collecting energy on scales that dwarfed entire planetary outputs. The galactic wormhole network that all species depended on for faster-than-light travel revealed its true nature as a transportation system built by ancient humans. Captain Wu Jin Seo watched in amazement as his ship's sensors detected the awakening infrastructure. "Admiral, we're reading massive energy signatures from over 1,000 systems. It's like someone just turned on lights throughout the entire galaxy." The response from the alien civilizations was immediate and desperate. The Vorthak Empire mobilized every ship they had. The Celestial Dominion activated defense systems that had been hidden for millennia. Dozens of smaller species that had built their power on the assumption of human primitiveness faced the collapse of everything they believed. But the most important change was happening to the humans themselves. As the Prime Vault's awakening signals spread through human space, the genetic activation accelerated beyond all projections. Dr. Jiwan Kang monitored the phenomenon from her mobile laboratory. "The awakening is cascading through the entire human population," she reported. "Everyone is being affected simultaneously. We're witnessing the return of abilities that have been dormant for millions of years. Humans throughout space were discovering they could interface directly with technology through quantum fields. They could manipulate gravitational forces through focused thought. They could communicate across vast distances without any equipment at all. But perhaps most importantly, they were remembering the wisdom their ancestors had accumulated over eons of existence. The knowledge of how to use power responsibly. The understanding that true strength came from nurturing rather than dominating. On Earth, President Soo-Young Han felt the change as it swept through her consciousness. Suddenly, she could perceive the quantum connections that linked all human minds. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of her entire species as they awakened to their heritage. The alien fleets that had been sent to suppress humanity found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Human ships that moved like living things. Human crews that seemed to know their enemies' plans before they were made. Human weapons that worked on principles the aliens couldn't understand. But instead of destruction, the awakened humans offered something unexpected. As alien ships found themselves disabled and helpless, human rescue vessels appeared to offer aid and safe passage home. Admiral Gun-hee Park transmitted a message that was broadcast throughout the galaxy. "To all species of the Galactic Council, we are not your enemies. We are your gardeners, returning to tend what we planted long ago." The message continued with an offer that stunned the galactic community. Humans would share their reawakened technology freely with any species that chose cooperation over confrontation. The ancient human infrastructure would be open to all for the benefit of galactic civilization. Some species chose to continue fighting. The Vorthak launched a final desperate assault on human space, only to find their ships gently disabled and their crews safely transported home. The Celestial Dominion attempted to destroy key pieces of the ancient infrastructure, but discovered the systems were protected by safeguards they couldn't overcome. But most species chose a different path. Faced with the reality that humans were indeed the galaxy's elder race, they began to reconsider their hostility. The evidence was undeniable. Every major piece of galactic infrastructure bore human quantum signatures. Every habitable world showed signs of ancient human terraforming. Dr. Kiwan Nam stood in the main chamber of the Kepler 442c ruins and watched as the holographic figure of Taehyun Kim appeared one final time. "You have chosen well," the ancient keeper said. "You have power beyond imagination, but you use it with wisdom. The galaxy is safe in your hands." As the hologram faded, new images appeared showing the future that was now possible. A galaxy where all species worked together using technology that could heal worlds and extend life indefinitely. A civilization that could reach beyond the galactic boundaries to explore the infinite cosmos. On New Sol, Seo Junhan watched as ancient human cities rose from hidden chambers beneath the planet's surface. The colonists, who had been struggling to survive, were now citizens of a metropolis that spanned continents. Captain Wu Jin Seo received new orders from Earth. The human fleet would be divided into exploration groups to seek out other galaxies, where human colonies might have survived. The great scattering of their ancestors had sent human seeds throughout the universe. It was time to find their lost cousins. In the weeks that followed, a new galactic council was formed, with humans taking their rightful place as the elder species. But unlike their ancestors, they would not rule alone. Every species would have a voice in shaping the future. Subin Lim was elected as the first human galactic chancellor. In her inaugural address, she spoke words that would define the new age. "Our ancestors sacrificed themselves so that all species could grow and flourish. We honor that sacrifice by ensuring that growth continues. We are not your masters. We are your partners in building something greater than any one species could achieve alone." Dr. Minho Kim stood once again in the ruins where it all began. But now the site was alive with activity as teams from dozens of species worked together to understand their shared history. The ancient human archives were open to all, offering knowledge that would benefit every civilization in the galaxy. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. With their awakened abilities and ancient wisdom, humans would lead the way into that infinite frontier. But they would not walk alone. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson the ancient humans could teach, that true civilization was built not through conquest but through cooperation. The children of Earth had come home at last, and they had brought the galaxy with them.